morning. For everybody who is here today, delighted to have you in person and online. Just so you know, after the concert, we're going to do a special post-concert. We have from Atlanta, Georgia, here today with us, the Walton High School Choir. They are on tour here in Chicago. So if you'd like to stay afterwards, there's going to be another performance afterwards of vocal music. Today's Noonday Concert artist is our own Michael Rees on the organ. I'm very excited about today's concert. He's been practicing all week. Wait till you hear it. We've got some really exciting pieces for you. If you open up your program on the inside, you'll see an advertisement. Just a reminder, this upcoming Monday, the 11th, we have Morehouse College's Glee Club coming. This is the nation's only private, historically black liberal arts college for men. They have an infamous Glee Club. They are really, really renowned, and they have some fabulous pieces that they have planned for us. That concert's going to be at 7:30 in the evening, and it will be free and open to the public with a suggested donation. So we hope we see each and every one of you here on Monday night for that as well. Just an update, due to sickness, next week's Noonday artist is going to be flipped out. So instead of the Renoir Trio, we will have our own Dr. John Scherer performing on the organ for us all. So we're going to have 2 organ concerts in a row. I'm real excited about that. If you could take a moment to silence your cell phones for me. Photography and videography is encouraged, but no flash, please, for our artist's sake. And if you could put your hands together for Michael Rees.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all so much for coming out on this truly terrible, miserable day. Thank you all for being here. That was the Festive Trumpets tune by the American composer David German. David has had quite a long career working at churches all across the United States, but he actually wrote that piece several decades ago for his own wedding. So that's a very fun processional piece. At many of my Friday concerts in the past, I've talked about my deep respect and admiration for the French organist and composer Jean Alain. I've talked about the innovations in his music and the tragedy of his early death during World War II. So rather than rehashing all of that today, instead I want to talk in some detail about the 2 pieces you're going to hear next, which I'll play as a set. The first piece is a piece you don't really hear played that often for 2 reasons. The first of those reasons is that it is quite short, and that's why I'm going to pair it with another piece by Alain. But the second reason is in the title, Lullaby for Two Notes That Cipher. Now, on the organ, a cipher is a pipe that gets stuck open, so it just becomes a drone that you can't really make go away. It's a rather annoying problem to have, and on an organ like this one, that's relatively new and in good condition, we don't have ciphers. But Alain's father liked to imagine that he was an organ builder. So inside of their house, he built a rather large organ, but because he wasn't a professional organ builder, it had various problems. For example, ciphers. So to deal with that problem, Jean Alain wrote this little piece that actually features those two ciphers as part of the music. Now, it is possible to play this piece by holding those notes down yourself and creating the cipher, but I thought it might be more fun and authentic to use a feature we have on this organ that's relatively rare, a sostenuto function. So I'm going to use that to create ciphers to play this piece. Following that, I'll play a much more substantial piece by Alain, the variations on the theme of Clément Jeannequin. Now, Clément Jeannequin was a songwriter from several centuries before Alain, and the piece that you're going to hear, this melody, is actually not from him, but Alain either believed it was by him or wanted to pretend it was for various reasons. So you might think that it's slightly odd that a composer as forward-looking and innovative as Jean Alain would choose this very old melody to write a piece based on. And in fact, a friend of Alain's asked him about that fact. But to that, Alain's response was, "Music is music. It doesn't matter where it comes from as long as it touches the soul." So with that in mind, I hope you enjoy hearing these next two pieces by the French Jean Alain. There might be a few people in this room right now who walked in today and saw today's program, the next piece, and thought to themselves, surely not that Don Knuth. But yes, this next piece is by that Don Knuth. For anyone else who doesn't know who Don Knuth is, he is Professor Emeritus of Computer Science at Stanford University and one of the most legendary theoretical computer scientists there's ever been. His contributions are far too many to list, but he's also an organist and himself an organ builder. He has his own organ in his home. So over the past 10 years or so, in his 70s, he developed this deep desire to write a piece he'd been thinking about for, he said, 40 years. And this piece, Fantasia Apocalyptica, is a direct translation into music of the Greek text of the book of Revelations from the Bible. And he has lots of different patterns he's applied to translate that text into music. And if this, I'm just going to play a very short snippet from it today, but if this at all interests you, there is a wonderful video of a performance on YouTube of the complete piece in which the performer has the original Greek text and demonstrates how it's being translated into music, projected onto a screen while they're playing the piece. So I'd recommend you check that out as well if this piece interests you. So today I'll play The Heavenly Throne from the Fantasia Apocalyptica by Don Knuth. Speaking of music that was composed for weddings, this next piece was also commissioned to be played at a wedding by the American composer Margaret Sandreski. Sandreski is, as you can see in your program, just about to turn 103 years old, and she is still composing to this day. She's had professor positions at several colleges across the United States, and I believe is currently based in North Carolina. So this is a setting of the text, "Set Me as a Seal Upon Thine Heart" by Margaret Sandreski. At this point in the program, you'd be justified in thinking two things. Number one, we are barely halfway through the promised time, and yet we've already come to the last piece in the concert. Number two, when you go to an organ concert, you typically expect to hear at least some dark, heavy music, the kind of music perfect for today's weather, and you haven't really gotten any of that yet. But fear not, this last piece will take care of you on both of those fronts. It's always fun when you can trace the origin story of a piece to a dare. But the Canadian organist and composer Healy Willen was at an organ concert given by a friend of his once, and his friend was playing the introduction, Passacaglia and Fugue by the German composer Max Reger. And as part of his program notes, that friend said that such a work could only have been conceived by a German philosophical mind. And Willen took that as a challenge and set out to write his own version of the introduction, Passacaglia and Fugue. Now, as to who did it better, I'll just say there's a reason that I'm playing this piece and not Reger's today. But seriously, this is a piece that's pretty much without equal in the organ repertoire. And if you haven't heard it before, you are in for a treat. Us organists like to throw around the word epic to describe various pieces, but this is one of the few pieces that truly deserves that, both in terms of scale and in character. So once again, thank you very much for coming out on this cold, wet, rainy day, and I hope you enjoy the introduction, Passacaglia and Fugue by Healy Willen.